Every day we meet people and we talk to new people, and what's the normal greeting that you get? Hey, how are you? And that's just a formality that we use in social greetings and social gatherings. But sometimes it feels like you don't really tell the person how you really are doing and how you're really feeling. And sometimes, most of the time, our normal answer is, I'm doing good, I'm doing well, I'm okay. And sometimes we just have to be cloaked in the I'm okay rhetoric, and God forbid we tell somebody how you're really feeling. How about I'm feeling like crap, or I'm not doing great? And we don't want to say things like that because that will incite a new conversation. Oh, what's wrong? Sometimes you want somebody to ask you that and they don't. And it's a crazy thing because in our society it's so difficult to be real. It's so difficult to be your actual self for fear that someone's gonna say that guy is crazy or that girl is nuts and there's something wrong with them. And I'm here to tell you that vulnerability is okay. An example, in recent weeks, I've been a little bit more candid than I normally would be. And one example is my being here recording a YouTube video with my hair all messed up, no makeup at all, and I'm just feeling a mess, a hot flippin' mess. But that's okay because I'm being vulnerable. I'm being real. I'm being me. And what we're going to be talking about is just that. There are benefits to being vulnerable. There are biblical principles actually to being vulnerable. And the most the most recent thing that I can think of is I think about 2 weeks ago, I was at a Toastmasters meeting. If anyone hasn't heard of Toastmasters, I guarantee you'll have a great time. And it's a club where you're able to learn how to speak better and have better speaking presence. And it gives me a lot of good practice when it comes to actually writing down my speeches, practicing them, and getting them out there, which is wonderful because I'm pretty shy when it comes to actually expressing myself. People don't really think that, but it's absolutely true. It petrifies me. And the thing that petrifies me the most is being vulnerable. So even though I'm able to speak to people, I'm really challenged by expressing my emotions and expressing my wants and my needs. And let me get some light in here. Because it's about to get dark in a few minutes, and I don't want that to affect my lighting here. So we were doing a table topic, and that is a part of the evening where you get to practice, a part of the meeting where you get to practice thinking on your feet, like for an interview or for any event that you like a toast at a funeral or a wedding or something of special occasion. And the question that I got was in the form of a fortune cookie. To read the fortune cookie and tell us how it affects your life. So the fortune cookie said, the more you resist temptation, the more you will wonder where it went. So I started talking about the temptation that I've had pretty much my entire life of having sex when I shouldn't, or having sex with the wrong person, or having sex as as a recreational drug. So I was talking about that, and I realized that's a very taboo topic. And not only that, but it's a very personal topic, something that a lot of people wouldn't readily talk about. And I've also had situations where I'm meeting new people, and my friends tell me, "Oh, don't talk about your addiction. Don't talk about your past. Don't talk about who you used to be." And that really bothers me because that that part of my past forms who I am now. It forms who I want to be in. It gives me a real personal way to connect with people. And and that's one of the things that the, the the first benefit that I want to talk about. There's six. The first benefit that I want to talk about regarding the benefits of vulnerability. The first benefit is that it helps build intimacy in relationships, because even though it's super hard to open up to someone, to a new person that you just met, I'm not saying tell them your entire story. I'm on the first date or on the first meeting, but to be open to being getting personal, not just, oh, I have four brothers, five brothers, and one sister, and I went to this elementary school. I was born on a Tuesday, and the sky was dark and cloudy on the night I was born. And but I'm not saying, oh, my my dad murdered someone on the day I was born or something. Not getting into drama. And that's the thing that is mistaken about being vulnerable or being open. You are mistaken for being dramatic. And that can't be anything further from the truth. It's not about drama. It's about being open and being able to express yourself in a very candid way. And that in turn shows the other person that they can be themselves around you as well. People don't understand that, and they mistake it for, you're so dramatic, or you just got a lot going on, or you have problems. Oh, everybody has problems, friend. Everybody does. So we can't just make it seem like you're the only one that has anything has ever happened to them. And it's not like you were just born and you sat in a room for 20, 30 years and then you just showed up in that room where the other person is. Has to have something, there has to have been something that's happening to you in your life to make you who you are. Be willing to talk about that. Maybe not the second you meet them, but it helps to be like, this is who I am, and to be open to that. Another benefit of vulnerability is that it increases your self-worth. My self-worth regarding my vulnerability is in the fact that I am willing not only to talk about it and be open about it, but I know where I come from. I know where I come from, and I know how many challenges I've faced to get to where I am. Yes, I've been clean and sober 7 years, but I know the life that I had before that. I know the life that I had during that, and I know the life that I've had since then, and I know where I'm going. So my self-worth is in knowing the different obstacles and the different challenges that I've had in my entire life, not only from my father having died when I was 10 years old, but the abuses that I endured as a child, the bullying that I endured and as a teenager and a elementary school student. I also know the pain that I endured by having an alcoholic living in the house when I was a child. So those things are the things that formed me into who I am. But I was also able to grow up up until the point where my father died. I grew up in a very loving, caring home. So that's a vulnerability. That's something I'm willing to express to people. Anyone who asks me, I'll always tell them I was raised in a very loving, caring home until the age of 10. And then after that, I endured a lot of stuff. And after that, I became an alcoholic or an addict in general, an addict. And after that, I went through a cleansing phase in my life where I went through the rehabilitation stages of my life. And since then, when I sobered up and when I finally realized my self-worth, I know who I am. I know where I'm going. I'm in I'm in a business partnership where we're on our way to building an empire. And I'm super stoked about that because 7, 8 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to do this. I wouldn't have been able to talk about this with such confidence and knowing that it's going to happen. And that is something that, in my personal opinion, I am super stoked about. My self worth is just you can't tell me anything. You know, I have challenges, and everybody does. And it also, the third benefit is that vulnerability aids in innovation and motivation. Again, I know where I've come from. I know how rock bottom I've been in the past, and I know who I was 7 years ago plus. I know who I was. I was an addict. I was very depressed. I was overcome by anxiety and riddled with just panic attacks and not knowing when my peace was going to come into my life. And I knew that I wasn't I was in a very traumatic situation. I just didn't know how deep it ran. But now I'm able to talk about that. I'm able to go out and talk to other people and let them know I'm not 100% okay sometimes. Sometimes I have days where my emotions just run ragged and I don't know what to do with myself. And I know that. But when I'm able to open up about it, it might be just some intimate friends. It might be just like my friend Michelle or my friend Jason, my friend Maria, my friend Nate. You know, there's my friend Curtis. There are very few select people that I'm willing to be open about these things about, but I'm able to talk about it. I'm able to express myself, and that motivates me to keep going. And that motivates me because they're able to tell me I'm full of crap, or stop doing this to yourself, or it's okay to feel this way. You know, it's my friends who know me that are able to tell me that, give me that honest opinion. And that can only come from vulnerability, because before, when I was in these severe situations of depression and anxiety ridden states, I wasn't able to tell them that. Or if I was able to tell them that and they said anything critical or give me any suggestions, I would get upset. I would get so angry because they weren't telling me that it was the other person's fault. They weren't telling me that that um, that it was going to be okay and that they were going to fix it themselves. They were going to fix it for me. And if they didn't tell me things like that, I would get so angry, or I'd stop talking to the people. And that's not vulnerability. That's just a big giant wall that we're building for ourselves. The the motivation comes in that I'm able to tell. I'm able to talk. I'm able to tell other people it'll be okay. My motivation to want to help other people comes from that vulnerability, that I know that it's going to be okay, that I know that not only will I be able to get out of it next time, but if they work on it, if they work on their situation, if they work on on their healing from whatever their situation is, they can get out of it. Vulnerability number 4. 4. Vulnerability promotes compassion. It provokes compassion. not pity. People mistake passion and pity, compassion and pity. It's not the same thing. It makes other people want to help you, not in a way that they want to do the thing for you, but they want to help you out. They understand that even though their life is different from yours, there's something that you have going on that you might be in pain over and in pain from, and it helps people to understand your situation. Like the homeless person down the street who may have not have gotten into homelessness because of drug addiction, but because their wife died or because their child died, and they kind of lost their mind after that, or because they lost their home because the bank did something that they shouldn't have done, or because their whole family died and they were in the foster system and they aged out and they had nowhere to go. That's where, if you're willing to talk about the situation, if you're willing to open up about these things, then it's a matter of being that vulnerable, that open, that person that's just willing to talk about their situation. And the compassion comes from that. Compassion is when people are willing to help somehow, physically, emotionally, just being a support system, financially sometimes. Depends on the situation, depends on the person's abilities. So that's one of my favorite ones because that has helped me so much. That has helped me so much to know that people are compassionate. They know that there are people out there who need help. There are people in prisons who need the skills to when they come out, when they're paroled from the situation, that they're able to have a place to go. And they need those life skills. And there are people with that compassion who understand that everybody needs help sometimes. They might not have the life skills for a resume. They might not have interview skills. But the people with compassion, there are millions of people out there that have a compassionate heart towards inmates and towards people with drug addiction and people who have been in those situations. And I myself am one of them. And I understand that there are situations that have brought people to those places, but with just a little bit of help, the recidivism rate in this country can drop dramatically, and it's a beautiful thing. And I think the people who are willing to help and who are able to help inmates and ex-cons and former drug addicts to get out of those situations, those people are amazing. And it's all because of the vulnerability of the people who are in those situations, who are willing to go in there and go to their resources and ask for help. That's amazing. I love that. Benefit number 6 is that vulnerability is a call for accountability. Let's see. There was a time about 4 years ago when I moved into this house, and it was like a transitional home. It was like a room and board, and I was helping helping the management out with some administrative work, and I would hang out with them a lot, and we ended up being pretty good friends. And even though some of them had never been in jail, they'd never been involved with drugs in any way, there was a time when I needed help. I had a housemate who was an older gentleman, and he was sitting there one night talking to another housemate, and they were talking about crack. For anybody who doesn't know, unfortunately, crack was like my last addiction, the big addiction that I really needed um, deliverance from. So his name was Bob. We called him Wheelchair Bob, and Bob was just talking, and even though it wasn't in a conversation that I was part of, I just happened to be in the same, within earshot. And even though I had been clean for about 2 years from that drug, I had, he would just crack this and crack that. He said, crack, 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 crack. And I'm like, this is not good. I need to get away from this person. I need to get away from this conversation because even though I had been clean for so long, the thought started coming into my mind like, maybe it wouldn't be such a bad idea if I just asked them for some stuff. And I wasn't trying to do that on purpose. I wasn't trying to. Sorry, how to fix my screen here. To get back into anything or get back into the drug or anything. And I promise you, that's not my intent. But you hear something for so long that it's like, that little shoulder devil is like, hey, ask him. And I wanted to ask him. But because I wanted to ask him, I knew that that was a red flag, red alert, red alert, red alert, red alert. I can't be talking about this. I can't be in the same vicinity as this person right now. So I ended up texting a friend of mine and said, I need to get out of here. And he didn't know what I was talking about. He got scared. And I said, I need to get out of this house right now. He said, you're making me nervous. It makes me nervous when you talk like that. And I said, I need to get out of this house, and can you please pick me up? Can we go somewhere and just talk? And even though I was talking to a person who had never done any drugs, had never been an addict of any sort. I was able to, because I was feeling this way, and because I knew that I needed to get out of that. It was my vulnerability that got me that accountability with this person. And he listened very well, and he listened to what I was talking about. And I told him, I know you don't know what I'm talking about, but I was feeling this way today or this evening. This person was talking about it. This person was talking about drugs and how good it felt, and what a great time he was having on them, and I needed to get myself out of that situation. And that my strength was in my vulnerability, and my needing to ask for help. Like, in the years since, I have built a rapport with a pretty good network of people that hold me me in high accountability, because I know that if I mess up in any way, if I go back to the drugs, or if I go back to any of my vices, or if I do the dumb stuff that I've done before, they would hold me super accountable and probably rip me a new one. And I love them for that, because it's all about love. It's all love. I can think of about 10 people that I can call at any given time and let them know I'm feeling this way. Because they know what I've built. They know the life that I've built over the last 7 years, and they know the amount of hard work and the amount of blood and sweat and tears that have gone into this whole new life that I've been able to, with God's help, create for myself. And I love them for that. They probably cursed me out if they needed to, and I would totally welcome it. And that brings me to benefit number 6 of vulnerability. Vulnerability means less loneliness. Again, your intimacy with this relationship. I think this pretty much all is all encompassing of all of these things. 1 through 5: intimacy, self-worth, innovation and motivation, compassion from other people, accountability, because you cannot have a friendship without accountability. You honestly can't, because that's not really a friendship. That's just an acquaintance. Um, Vulnerability means less loneliness. You're able to open up to more people. You're able to talk to people. You're able to tell people, this is how I feel. This is my past. This is the good. This is the bad. This is the ugly. I want you to see the ugly and still love me. Because if your friends don't love you because of your ugly past, were they really your friends? The answer is no. They can be, and if you tell someone you've been living a good life and things have been good, and I was a drug addict 7 years ago, and they turn their backs on you, or you somehow relapse and are able to say, I need help. If you're not doing it over and over again, it means that you're able to get back into that saddle and keep going. Vulnerability lets other people see who you are, and it allows you to open your heart to new people. I find it very challenging to open myself up to new people. I really do. And it's so hard because I've been screwed over so many times. But I'm willing to try now. I'm willing to give it a shot. Because I remember what it was like when I was living with different people and not able to speak my mind, or living with certain family members and not even being able to tell them how I feel, because they just shut me down, or because, what are they going to think about what I say? During the deepest part of my depression, I wasn't able to tell anyone anything, because I couldn't express myself, because I was so angry, because I was so sad, because I couldn't express myself. And it's just a vicious cycle. It's a vicious, sad cycle. And when people are feeling that way, they go off and they do other things, and that's where the addictions come in. And it's so heartbreaking. So being able to be vulnerable to people is a blessing. It is scary, and it hurts, and it's something that everyone can benefit from, because just knowing that there's other people out there who have gone through the same thing, and who are able and willing to give you their heart, and willing to give you a shoulder to cry on, and willing to give you good, loving, caring advice, without judgment. And unfortunately, too many people who are willing to be vulnerable think that mistakenly the person that is giving them critique or advice is being judgmental. I try not to be that way. Of course, I fall short like everybody else does. I try not to be judgmental. I try to speak from experience. I try to speak out of love. I do my best to tell the person, hey, I'm here for you. I understand. This is what I did in a similar situation. And that's the only thing that I can do. That's the only thing that any of us can ask the other person to do, is to open up their heart and be willing to listen. Another thing that we can do is instead of trying to give advice, just kind of put a mirror up to the situation. Okay, so this is what you're telling me. Because it's so much easier to live life that way than to try to give advice on something we probably don't know anything about. Like, I can't give marital advice. Never been married. I can't give child rearing advice on behalf of the parent, but I can remember what it was like as a child to be in certain situations. So the only thing that I can really think of is to be open, to be honest, and to love each other, and through the peaceful, through the hurtful, through the good, through the storms, through the ugly, through the torrential downpours, through the hurricanes. That's all we can really do, because life isn't always cupcakes and rainbows. So with that, I close in saying that vulnerability is a blessing, and you don't have to be ashamed of who you are. You don't have to be ashamed of your past. And I know it's easier said than done, but there is a way out, and there is peace and harmony and joy at the end of this rainbow. Thank you so much, everyone. Talk to you soon. God bless.